Welcome to the New Voices podcast. My name is Ben Wong, and I graduated from Vanderbilt University in the class of 2022. I spent the last few years in the startup world, and I kept hearing the same things from founders and students and just people generally in the tech world. I didn't know that Vanderbilt is a startup school. This really bothered me because over the last few months, I've been connecting one-on-one with Vanderbilt founders, operators, investors, and friends and family who support the innovating space. And everyone exists in this web. They're just operating independently without knowing about each other. And this is why I'm building New, the connective tissue and community for Vanderbilt's startup ecosystem. And the goal of the New Voices podcast is about making the nodes of this web visible. And today, I'm talking to someone who proves that Vandy absolutely produces serious builders. Today, I'm with Logan Brown in a WeWork in Hudson Yards in New York City. Logan graduated from Vandy in 2018 as a Chancellor Scholar with a degree in Human and Organizational Development, or HOD as we Vandy folks call it. While at Harvard Law, she started a Pantsuit company, so we'll dive into that. And after that, she spent 2.5 years at Cooley, a big law firm representing startups. And then in May 2025, she just hopped and left with no deck, no team, and decided to build her startup that she's building today called Soxton AI, which is an AI-first law firm that served over 250 plus early stage startups and companies for only $20 a month, at least to start. So this conversation today is about what it actually takes to jump from the safe path to building something of your own. And it takes experience and time for sure. And why Vanderbilt needs more stories like Logan's to be a little bit more visible. So let's jump right in. Logan, thanks so much for joining in and welcome to the New Voices podcast.
So thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited about what you're building. And I also love the Vanderbilt community. So thrilled to be here.
Logan is great. Don't know how we got connected. Do you remember?
Who introduced us? I don't remember who introduced us.
I don't know. Is it
somebody from the Vandy ecosystem?
Is it Zinni?
Was it Zeppos himself? It might have been Zeppos.
It was Zeppos.
Okay, we love Zeppos here.
Yes.
Zeppos fan club, number one till the day I die.
Yeah. So we're sitting here in New York, but I want to go back to Nashville for a second. So 2017, 2018, maybe 2016, I don't care when you were a student. You're an HOD person.
Yes.
You've done a lot of different things in college, but where did you spend the most time on campus?
Ooh, okay. So I lived in different places each year. I lived in Crawford, McTier, Cole, right by Rand, and then Kassam. And I really loved McTier. I lived in their international floor, which meant that every day we got together for dinner and to discuss international topics. But every other, I don't think it exists anymore. But then every other floor, they had dinner where they spoke in a foreign language. And I really found a good community there. But I had friends all over campus. I also was really big in my sorority. I wasn't into my sorority, but I had a lot of friends there that I hung out with all the time. I love Vandy. I miss it.
What language did you do, or was it?
So I didn't even do a language. It was called International Organizations, I think. And every night there was a specific policy topic that you discussed and you debated. But I think that I was one of two people that were not international students. Wow. So it was a really great experience.
They're knocking it down.
That's so annoying. I loved McTier. Yeah. I mean, I think the res eds too, but I think that McTier was a really important part of my school experience. Mm-hmm. And even the next 2 years where I didn't actually live there, because the building itself wasn't that nice. And so it's probably good that I think there was mold in it, which is why I wouldn't live there after that, because it made me feel ill. But I would go there for dinners and I would just hang out there all the time. I would I was sitting there's a hallway where everybody would walk through and I would sit there and I didn't live there and that's where all my friends were.
I did not know that about Logan.
Yeah.
I remember getting food from the cafeteria or dining hall in McTier. It's the better good food besides the athletic dining halls, which I also got lucky to try twice in my life.
There you go.
Well, HOD is interesting and has a certain rep on campus. It is what you make of it. That's sort of the vibe, I think.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people who go into HOD and end up doing really cool stuff, from law like yourself to entrepreneurship or nonprofits. But there's also a lot of people who go in and the traditional pathway is consulting, finance, and similar careers. I know you had a strong interest in law, so I'm curious to hear what drew you to that and how HOD fit in. And did you know what you wanted to do in college? And what's the story behind all that?
Yeah. So I've always known I wanted to be a lawyer. So it's very fun that I am doing what I'm doing now. But when I was 12, I saw Legally Blonde, like many other people, and also was watching Law and Order SVU. And I was like, that's it. Like, I'm going to be a lawyer. Like, this is my calling. And I prepared a cover letter and a resume. And I had my parents drive me to the district attorney's office in my hometown. And I walked in and I asked for a job. And there was a elderly secretary there. Her name is Dolores. And like Dolores profoundly impacted my life because she said yes. And so like literally from the summer in between 7th and 8th grade until I graduated from high school, that's what I would do. Like after class, the school was over for the day during summers, I would just hang out at the DA's office. That's where I grew up. And like if there was like some sort of hearing for a case I had been following, like I would like skip high school to go like watch the update. And like I really enjoyed that. So always knew I wanted to be a lawyer. Every internship experience that I had while at Vandy had some sort of legal component to it. And so like I was like super focused on that. And I think that that's one of the reasons that I also really enjoyed HOD. I think that the natural thing that people do if they want to become a lawyer is that they like major in poli-sci, which I thought about, but I think that after learning about HOD, not in like when I was on campus, I was like, I think that this is a better fit for me because I grew up in a small town in Kansas and I didn't really have access to the resources that some other folks, like I never left the United States before college. And so I won the Chancellor scholarship to go to Vandy, which was like full tuition, but it also provided stipends to travel and do research abroad. And through that, I started focusing on like international law and really, and I think that I did research under a professor who recommended HOD and I started taking classes and I was like, this makes a lot of sense because it is so versatile. And I have this interest of law, which can definitely lend itself to, but I also have all of these other interests that I can incorporate into my coursework and really make out of it what you want. I agree. Like, I think that it does have a reputation on campus, but I do think that it's really beneficial for students.
100%. I mean, yeah. I'm also HOD major.
I love it.
I pair it with molecular biology. It does come back, and I really did like make the most of it because when you get into higher level classes, I don't know what track you did, but I did the international.
I did that one too.
Yeah. Development, and like we got thrown into like the social science research papers around like microgrants in lower income communities, or like the larger, broader global organizations that kind of impact like political economies, literally. So like people think it's like, oh,
wait. What do you think HOD is? Like if people ask you what that means, what do you say?
I was going to ask you that actually. Okay. For me, I always say it's a psychology of business, but then I explain the tracks and sort of my niche within that track, which is the development stuff. And interestingly, I personally was about to go to England for my master's in development studies at Cambridge, but then corporate took me away.
They do that.
Exactly. Well, before I jump into like sort of like seeing if any of those experiences at Vandy impacted you today, I'm curious. I asked all the people on this podcast, if you got randwiches.
Oh my gosh, I did.
What is your randwich order?
Oh, it was the pretzel bun with turkey and cheese and the honey mustard. Yeah. Okay. I miss randwich. I but like I was HOD, so I was also on commons all the time. And you know what I miss is like common potatoes and like the omelet. Like Vanderbilt has great food.
Commons breakfast.
Yeah. And greens. I miss greens. I miss the pumpkin muffins that they had at Munchie Mart. Those are good. No, they had like a skinny, I don't know what was, they're probably very calorically dense, but they were like really good. It was like a skinny chocolate chip pumpkin muffin. I buy them when I'm back on campus because now I'm like old, but my friends are getting married now. And a lot of them are getting married like in the Nashville area because like my boyfriend also went to Vandy. And so like we go back all the time and I purchase them. They're still there.
So back to Vandy. So you did your HOD capstone at the Nashville Public Defender's Office.
Yes.
As you mentioned, you did a lot of law stuff. Then you went on to get the Marshall Scholarship and study in England, which I think is super cool.
Yes.
And then you ended up going to Harvard for law. It seemed like the path was all set. So I'm also curious to hear sort of like in this arc, were there specific moments in those different experiences where you think, hey, this really did impact me as a founder today?
Oh my gosh, yes. I think that like one of the things that I people joke at Vandy about like kind of the leadership, like soft skill things that are like woven into the HOD coursework. But like being thrown into the role that I am now, where I suddenly have like a bunch of contractors that I am like guiding and like full-time employees, like I refer back to those like lessons quite a bit. But I also think that there are so many lessons throughout the entire journey of my life where it's just like I'm constantly recalling and calling back to things that I've learned. Substantial impact, I think, is just like my time at Vandy. I think that there's just such a density of talent. And within HOD, there's so many people that go on to do extraordinary things. And you're just like learning kind of like the basis of how to exist in a corporate world, that like I am actively looking for people with like those types of skills whenever I'm hiring now. So I'm so, so grateful for that. I think it really just sets you up with like a baseline for success in like a variety of different places. Couldn't be more appreciative of the Vandy and the HOD crew. I love them.
100%. So heading over to Harvard Law when you were there as a law student, which seems like a very hard thing to do. I guess most people don't go to law school kind of thinking they'll start companies, but you had an interesting experience. You definitely did the law stuff, but then also tell us more about a company you started.
I think that during my time at Vandy, and I think that this is also something that HOD like really encourages, is to like just like explore your passions. So I did all sorts of things. I wrote a children's book that like I then got research funded, and it got funded to like to start. It was to promote an anti-smoking or tobacco usage message and like minority youth populations. And so like I traveled all over like on a book tour while I was on campus. It had nothing to do with anything like related to like being a lawyer. So I just like did all of these things that I was interested in, which was like awesome. And I think that HOD like really let you like weave that into your coursework, which I appreciated. So I already kind of like had experience of just like, you know what, I'm here, I'm going to try this. There are resources to support me. And so whenever I was in the UK, I was focused on like international law and like working on that from like a national securities perspective, which is what I had done a lot of research on during my time at Vandy and how you could use that from a legal perspective. I just wasn't liking it. I was actually starting to work within agencies. And I was like, I don't know if this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I also started a food Instagram when I was at Vandy. Yeah, like basically I have all these diverging interests.
So
and
it's
like,
kind of
like it all leads up to now.
Yeah.
But I started a food Instagram and it did not like I had no followers. I was just being annoying for fun. And then when I went to the UK, for whatever reasons, it took off. Like I got like not a ton of followers, but enough where I was getting invited again. I was like making money selling ads and just having all of these opportunities. And that was kind of like dipping my toes into like the entrepreneurship world. And I really liked it. Like I liked the ability to create. I liked the ability to like meet with other people. I started like a consulting type of firm alongside that. So when I got to Harvard, like 1L is like notoriously tough. 6 class, you have like the same set of classes as all of your peers. You have cold calls where the professors will just like pick people to call on and you don't raise your hands and you don't know when it's coming. And you're just like thrown into a world that you don't know. So it's notoriously stressed. And I like wasn't liking it. I was like, I don't know if this is what I want to do. And I had the idea while I was there for a pantsuit company. And that came about because I needed a pantsuit for an interview. And I found like a hard time finding one. And I was like, I could just do this. And so I spent a lot of time at Harvard Business School. And then also within like, there's like incubator programs at Harvard, like for the broader ecosystem. And then I also cost enrolled at MIT Sloan. And then through that, I was just like using the resources available to me. And that's like how I learned about the startup world and the venture capital ecosystem. And I loved it. So I spent a lot of my time in law school focused in that space, which is also like why I went to Cooley, is because I like started hanging out with founders. I started hanging out with like VCs or people that were scouts on campus. And I was like, this is so cool. And this is like what I want to do. And so I went to Cooley for a reason, because I wanted to help founders, but I had an eye on founding something. Like I enjoyed doing that whenever I was a student.
Mm-hmm. Something I'm noticing is that, and you said it twice now, is that you're really good at finding and leveraging resources that you have. So I think that's super cool that now you're a founder and there's limited resources per se. So it's like, okay, what can we do with what we have, which is super cool. And honestly, a good mindset to have as a founder versus like kind of just cajombling different types of directions that you could take. But tell us more about Spencer James. Here's to hear like that little, it's like a product based
Yeah.
entrepreneurship feat? Like, let's hear more about that.
Oh my gosh, I'm obsessed with Spencer Jane. So it's machine washable pantsuit. It has pockets. It has so I created this survey and I sent it to 1 million people, and it ended up getting forwarded to like an alumni, some scholarships I had done. And so I had all of this data on what women wanted out of their pantsuits. And it's like, they don't want to, especially of various age demographics, but it's like, they don't want to take it to the dry cleaners. They want to feel good. They want pockets. They don't want to get it tailored. And so like the arms are designed purposely long, will look good when rolled. And so I spent a lot of my 1L year developing this. And then I had no background in being an entrepreneur, being a founder. And I just went on LinkedIn whenever I found a specific type of fabric I liked from a luxury brand. I just added everybody that worked at that brand on LinkedIn until somebody told me the factory that it came from in Italy. And then I reached out to that factory in Italy, and they had a kid who was my age and he spoke English. And so they had me talk to him, and they were like, you know what, we'll help you. And so the factory that I use for these pantsuits, it's like the same factory that does Montclair and all of these really luxury brands. And they just did help me because they had like a son that was the same age as me. They're awesome. It's a really, really fabulous factory. And then I learned so much through doing that. And also from like everybody at Harvard Business School that spent a lot of time helping me build this pantsuit company. I'm so, so appreciative, because I was asking very naive questions, but it was really just like learning as you did it. And lots of lessons I now implement now. But then like figuring out like a go-to-market strategy, I was just like trying everything. And what I learned worked well was like selling to law firms. And so law firms that have incoming female associates buy it for them, like largely in the Midwest. We also have our primary customers are like female law partners, and it's the great client base, and it still exists. I love Spencer Jane. I'm so glad I did that, and I'm so proud of it. But it is very different than like a traditional tech company. But it's a good lifestyle business. The pantsuits are all in my mom's house in their basement, and she helps me ship them out. So love free labor.
But what I hear from that is that you got discovery experience by
sales,
go to market, product. Like, it's not an AI tech product. We're going to get into getting feedback, finding your ICP or ideal customer profile.
Yeah, the whole thing.
Understanding the market, finding your niche, and now like also
like what leads to sales, how to like exactly all of that. I mean, I think that like the difference is that like you make a mistake in this world, it's like software, you can just fix it. Like the biggest mistake I made in Spencer Jane is that I didn't realize that there was a difference. Like if you use a factory in America, sizing is not like the same standard. And so like the difference, like this is just an example, between small and medium is 2 inches and medium and large is 2 inches. It's not that, it gets bigger. So like with small and medium 2 inches, medium and large, it's like 4 inches, but I use Italian sizing, which is like the 2 inches. And so like the pantsuits were like just too small, like when you got bigger from what people expect. And that is an expensive problem to fix.
So she's a lawyer and she knows her pantsuit.
That's size. Right. Like fabric manufacturing, I have a very deep and complex understanding of. I know where to get the good fabrics and what countries do what the best and like how to order them. It's like, I love the experience. I think that that's like my biggest advice to people is like, if they're wanting to start a company, like you do have to know what you're doing. We kind of just got to figure it out.
So it seems like you're always doing like 3, 4, 5 things at once. So at Harvard, you were doing, your really hard coursework in like torts and all that other stuff, but then also figuring out Spencer Jane. Like, how do you, I guess, just decompress? And I guess that's my first question, right? To take a break from all the cool things you're doing.
Yeah.
And then the second thing is sort of like, how do you compartmentalize in your brain? Like, where should you be focusing your time? Amidst all the different cool stuff that you're working on.
I mean, now all like 95% of my thoughts are about Soxton, like if I'm awake. But I think that like I like it. Like I think that if you were to like take a look at me during my Harvard time or even like my Cooley time, you would find me like gravitating towards the things that I like, like building, like coming up with an idea and figuring out how to like actually turn it into reality. And so like that is energizing to me. Like what is not energizing to me, it was like doing my coursework or like doing like the legal work at Cooley. And like there are parts of my job now that I don't like. And I think that that's something that I'm paying attention to is like each day I like think of like the goals that I want to like accomplish that day. And then I also like reflect on if those are the things that will actually be a mover and like whatever my broader strategy is. And so that's like how I try to prioritize. In terms of decompressing, like there's such like a work hard, like the 996 mentality that folks have. And I think that that's, you do work hard. And I work in, like I work, put in very, very long days, but it's not necessarily helpful to like not have time to decompress. I think that some of the ideas that I have that end up being really great are things whenever I'm just like doing something else. And like, I give like my mind a chance to rest. And so like, I like to see friends, I exercise, like that's like harder to maintain, but I think that it's really important to do that. And so seeing friends, exercising, I like to shop, all of those things.
Classes?
I love workout
Wait, where do you
classes.
go?
I go to Berries and I go to Solid Core. Berries and Solid Core. I like the no far method. Have you tried that?
No.
You know, this is just
It's okay.
Charlie Jarvis.
No.
Okay, so she started a company. She sold it to JP Morgan, and it was a company that like helped college students like apply for FAFSA, get financial aid.
Okay.
She had like real users. Like she had 300,000 users, but like told JP Morgan in their diligence process that she had millions for some reason, like which 300,000 is impressive, but she sold it for 300 million to JP Morgan, and she manufactured data. And like she had hired some professor to like create like false user profiles, and she went to jail. But in between time when she was awaiting her trial, she was a Pilates instructor at the no far method, and I thought that was really funny. And so like I initially went to go see, is this real? And then I actually really like the Pilates, but that's one of my classes.
I have not tried Pilates just yet. I have friends who live and breathe it, so one day.
It's good.
So you graduate, then you head over to Cooley, as you alluded to, and there were parts of your job that you just didn't like. But I think what was cool is that you stuck with the startup relationships. Tell us a little bit more about your experience there at Cooley, and I guess what were some of the things you were seeing that stuck with you that I guess informed what you're doing today?
Yeah, so I Cooley is like a great place to learn on how to be a lawyer and how to work with startups. And so in my job when I left, I had represented 50 plus startups from incorporation, and I even worked on an IPO in our direct listing in my time there. And I also represented a variety of venture funds where I like managed their investments into startups. And so I was able to see like what they cared about when they were doing diligence. And I learned a lot. I think that I started in their Boston office, and then I helped open their Miami office. And so I was like the second associate to move to Miami. And it was like largely me and one mid-level who I think is just like one of the best attorneys I've ever seen. And also we have a really great manager. I learned a lot from him. But we were in an industrious together on Miami Beach. And so it wasn't like the traditional big law. Like I think when people think big law, they think like we're in Hudson Yards right now where a lot of law firms are. And like they think that like the flashy, like shiny offices with people in suits. Like it was me and a mid-level, like on a beach in Miami, like just like trying to figure out like how to like set up an office. But I found myself really jealous of my clients. Like I would see my clients just like building and like turning nothing into something. And I was like, that is so cool. And I became friends with my clients. I was able to see them outside of the context of working on their deals. So impressed with what they're doing. And I was able to learn. I was able to see them go from incorporation to see some of the struggles they have along the way, whether that be with employees or advisors or financings. And so I learned the practical things of things that have tripped other people up, but I also learned how their mindset worked and how they were going about it. And I saw it happen in a variety of different forms, founders of all different nationalities across the country with different backgrounds. And I was able to see there was a lot of ways to go about it. And so I like had an eye on leaving. Like I had also in my time at Harvard, like I had like worked as like an operator. I worked as like a interim chief of staff for a Sequoia-backed seed stage startup. So I was able to like see there. I worked for a VC. Like I was able to get all of these experience. And so like I knew I didn't want to be there forever. And I was like really had an eye on what I was going to do next. And I think that with the introduction of AI and like how that was already transforming the legal field, I wanted to be a part of it. And so I was like thinking through the best ways to like, one, use my skill set, but also like a real problem I could solve. And I deeply love founders. Like I think that you can see like a through line since like I discovered this whole ecosystem during my first year of law school. Like that's like who my friends are. That's who I liked helping. And this was like a problem I really care about for our customers that I adore. So that's like what ultimately made me jump ship and leave.
I'm curious to hear what were some of the things that you just kept seeing founders, early stage company, founding teams go through, and what kept coming to you on your desk that just felt so solvable that now you're at Soxton?
So my billable hour rate, like the rate that I charged startups whenever I left, was $925 an hour. So that's like
2 iPads.
right. Right. Like it's kind of like whenever you're starting a company, your options are to go to a law firm and pay that. And you might not go somewhere that's like Cooley where it's that high. You might go somewhere where it's cheaper, or you can like use ChatGPT or like find online forums. And so what we saw a lot at Cooley is folks that were either just like frustrated with that level of pricing, or they had been using like these online or just going without. And I think that the ability to bridge that is like where I'm like very focused on like the problem I'm solving. Getting legal at the earliest stages, like an early stage company, their legal needs are real. Like your legal needs are as big as a big company's. Like it's important and crucial that you get it correct, but the ability for you to pay for that type of service in the way that it's been served is just like much more limited. And the options online are very confusing. And we're at a point in time from both a technology and a regulatory perspective where we can do something different. Like we can provide these services to people that probably otherwise would go without in a real meaningful way using AI assistance with also humans in the loop to make sure you're getting those good quality services from day one, which ultimately lets founders build something better, or at least like not worry if like the legal stuff is messed up, which will like lead to higher payments ready. Like it's like getting VC ready docs from the very beginning at a price that is like meant for startups.
I was a chief of staff as well, working under a CEO who had a law background, which was great because she had the experience looking through all the stuff.
Yeah.
But I think there was also a point where I did work with counsel and we use a big law firm. And I was like, wow, we're charging them a lot of money to do things that I, without a legal background, could potentially do. Of course, there are the limitations of using like Gen AI or something. But again, if a human is in the loop, then there's a potential to actually streamline things. Came up with the internal framework around what types of contracts or legal documents that we can come up internally so we can save money without looping in the external counsel. And so I feel that. And I'll be real with everyone. I took a look at their product and I just knew that this would be so helpful in the hands of operators and founders because, again, a lot of them don't have legal backgrounds and they don't want to deal with it. So anything that's cheap, fast, efficient, and has a human in the loop, I think that is going to be super cool about using Soxton.
Well, Ben, you introduced a phrase to me that like I have like stolen since, and like outcome as a service. Like I like have been like repeating that nonstop. And so you can describe it, but that's like what Soxton is that like you make a request. Like when I experience like a tax issue with Soxton, I don't want to learn this. I don't want to deal with this. I will pay whatever amount of money to just make this go away. And Ben introduced like outcome as a service concept to me, which is like basically that idea that people don't want to think about what is happening behind the scenes. They just want the like final result in their inbox wherever they're working with as little as friction as possible. And that's like what we're aiming to do at Soxton is like when you are operating, like you do not, I mean, it's important you get your legal stuff right, but it's not like the number one to do on your day. You have customers, you have all sorts of things that you're trying to build. And so you can make a request to us. And our goal is to just like get you that outcome as quickly as possible without adding any more stress to your day.
Yeah, the concept is known in, I think, the venture or the VC world as RAS or results as a service. But again, there's just labels for literally everything. Outcomes is the same thing. But for me, or there's another word called service as software, meaning that
love it.
There's inputs given from a customer that the provider, i.e. a Soxton, will then do something with the input to produce an output or an outcome. It's a little bit ambiguous, but like once you try to like tell your brain as to how to conceptualize it, it makes a lot of sense. I sort of think of it as essentially like outsourced providers that are now AI enabled. So like they're doing the work instead of selling technology for their customers to do the work. And I'm excited for that space. I think SaaS, software as service, is going to die or eat itself. So I think the big companies that will propel, including Soxton, are going to be focused on outcomes as a service.
So for an example of like how outcomes as a service, and I'm so appreciative for you introducing that terminology here, is like our third most requested contract or service it's actually a commercial agreement. So like you're getting ready to have your first customer and you need to have that baseline agreement and you probably have a few things that are bespoke to whatever service you're providing. And so you request that service, you request it from email. And then on our side, we will use our AI agent tooling system to take a first stab at that. And then we will have a lawyer review it. And we're actually like building that technology to streamline the lawyer to review, because AI is like very great at presenting things as correct. And like in the legal setting, it's pretty good, like 80 to 90% of the time, but like that last 10% matters. Legal is one of the areas that is getting a lot of investment right now, and why humans are in the loop are important. And then we just get it back to you. So like you're not even seeing the like technology piece of this. You're just telling me what you need, and then we get the service back to you in a way that is better than you would otherwise have to go like search for something or pay a lot of money for it.
I'm curious to get your take on where you've seen it go sideways around using AI in sort of the legal stuff.
Yeah, so it is really good at presenting things as correct, but I think that it is not great at creating contracts. I think that it is also not great at like writing phrasing or clauses. Another example of where it frequently creates issues is like employment law. It really matters what state you're employing someone in. And for some reason, OpenAI, like a lot of the models will just like pick a state to use and like use that law. And then that like is not necessarily like if you're hiring someone in New York and like the model is like creating a contract with like Georgia law, that doesn't it, the default is Georgia a lot of times for some reason. I don't know why they were trained on like Georgia stuff, but like that creates an issue. And so I think that just like making sure that last 10% is correct, which is why like we have lawyers around here that are double checking everything. And I think that it's like the engineering staff is like learning that as like we're implementing new agents where they're like, okay, like review this. And we're like, oh no, like we were looking at a bylaws amendment yesterday. And so changing like the rules governing an organization. And it just like created something that like, where like, can you make an amendment that does this? And it just like added that language to the amendment. So you know, you need to know what like the actual proper way to do this from a corporate governance perspective is. I think it'll get better. Like I think that as like there's more information, like it will only improve, and like we'll be right there as it does. But right now it's nowhere near being able to like rely on. It's a great place to learn broader concepts. It's a great idea to like understand like what you need to do, but it's not necessarily the best for implementation right now.
I so resonate with the annoyance of state jurisdictions for contracts, because I worked at a remote startup where we're hiring from across the US. And we had like our big law council sent like maybe 7 templates based on the current employees. But again, I helped the company scale from, me as the third full-time to 20. And so cool. Literally we were like, we're not going to send this back to our council because it would be charged like $1,000. But yeah, like we noticed also when we were putting it into like a ChatGPT, even with the latest model or a Claude, that it was spitting out like literally just kind of non-specific state stuff.
Yes.
So I can see, as you said, like the last 10%, while that is really important, it is something that we need instead of having to send over to like a Cooley or a law firm.
Exactly. That's like when there are things, if you are like going to a big law firm for, or any law firm for, that they're just grabbing a template somewhere, that this is like a routine task for them and they're charging you by the hour. We're not trying to do everything. Like whenever companies come in and they're like doing something involving HIPAA or like some sort of like really regulated financial space, like that's not a place that we want only the automatable work. Like we want the easy, low-hanging fruit things that you're just like not quite sure if like the template you're currently using is right. We're trying to disrupt is that. I think there's such a huge market of folks that just otherwise would not consume legal services that we're really focused on tapping, so that like you're not spending a ton of money whenever you get big enough to have a big law firm take a look at everything later on. It's like VC ready from day one, and making sure that you've got like the legal guardrails on from day one is really where we're focused.
Can you chat more about the economics of sort of Soxton versus using big law, and how, I guess, are you competing against big law now? Like what's sort of the vibe around that?
I don't think that we're competing against big law. It's like most of our customers would otherwise not use big law. And we also have many customers that also are engaged with a big law firm. And like the type of work that we're doing are places where people would probably not use the big law firm. And so it's like employment, advisor agreements, incorporations, the first step at commercial contracts, influencer contracts, like the very easy, lower hanging fruit that's very important you get right. That's where we're focused on solving. And so it's like a very night and day difference between using the two, and that like it's like $20 a month. And on like our platform, there's a bunch of templates that you can just use. But within that is the ability to like access the legal team. And that's $100 a contract for most contracts. And we aim to get back with you between 4 hours and 24 if it's a little bit more complex what you're asking for, with a bespoke agreement. And then you can follow up and ask questions with your lawyer. And so it's night and day difference from what you're doing. And it's just like a different type of way to consume legal services that most folks haven't touched yet.
Jumping more into sort of your current founder experience,
yeah.
I'm curious to hear, I think it's a tough journey to be a founder, but luckily you've had a plentiful amount of experiences that clearly have prepared you. But what's still like the hardest thing to figure out, day to day as a founder?
I think that this is like the advice I give to folks whenever they're telling me that they want to found someday, is like hiring really good people. I think that I am so proud of the team that we have here, both from like the folks that are full-time and the contractors and part-time people. Everybody is just like A+ talent, and that really makes a difference. And they're also people that I enjoy hanging out with. I really like the team, but I think that finding more people to bring on that fit from a cultural perspective and are also competent is by far the hardest part. And so really that's my advice, is like start developing the folks that you want to work with early, and like know you're going to do it when you go to Stanford. But I think that that's the number one thing. But being a founder, like the problem that you're solving, well, first of all, there's many problems you're solving at all time, but it changes. Like I think that like my problem in May was very different than my problem now. And so I think that just being okay with the chaos of it, like I find most of it fun, but there are like the highs are highs or lows are lows. I think it's hard. Being a founder is hard, but I like it. I think that I don't know. I couldn't imagine myself doing a different job right now.
What's the most unexpected part of building right now?
I think that's a good question. I think that the frothiness of the market is very unexpected to me. I think that people like VCs, customers, advisors, everybody is just like chomping at the bit to consume more AI services. And so I think that there is a disconnect from like what AI can actually do today and like some of the valuations that we're seeing. And I think that I don't know how long that's going to last. I think that for the most part, I'm like pleasantly surprised by how things are going. Like our customers are really loving Soxton so far. Like our reviews are phenomenal, and I'm proud of that. And I am also very excited by like what my customers are doing. That's like my favorite part of this job, is that my customers are founders. And so we have founders across every different vertical doing the coolest stuff. Like there are companies that are like car leasing securitization, to like counterterrorism simulations, to like AI dentists, to like I talked to somebody this morning that was doing like ship propulsion, to like robotics, to like really across the board. And I like get to talk to these people every day. They're at the cutting edge of what they do and play a very small role in them setting up their company. I just think it's the coolest thing. I love my customers.
Yeah, sometimes just learning about what the others are building as a founder is super cool too. And even if they're your customers, it's even better versus niching into one specialized industry. I think for myself, at least, I was insure tech previously.
Yeah.
Which I will say it's very dynamic, but just not for me.
I mean, if you're going to do something where you're spending like literally like 90% of your thoughts like thinking about it, like you should like it. Like I like the problem I'm solving, and I really like my customers. I think that, and it's like a real, like it's a real need. So I mean, that part is really great.
Bring this back to what we're building at New.
Yeah.
Again, sort of this Vanderbilt ecosystem. It's clear you really charted your own path. And again, as we discussed before, you're really good at finding what you have, the resources that you have around you, and like hammering in on them to do and build and put your time and energy into. I guess I'm curious to hear, like you're a alum that graduated in like the mid 2010s.
2018 is when I graduated, yeah.
Or late 2010s.
Yeah, thank you. Like, did you see my press? Like they were like 30-year-old like lawyers like starts a company. That was like literally the headline of my launch. Why are we doing that? Like why is that a central part of this whole thing?
But I wanted to ask you sort of, Vanderbilt right now isn't known for producing founders, but I think you're a antithesis to that. What do you want to sort of give as advice to like the next generation of founders, maybe in the same paths or
Oh my
shoes that
goodness.
might?
I think Vanderbilt, I'm so glad you're building what you're building. There are so many people in the Vanderbilt ecosystem that are doing very cool things. We have great founders that are building, there are many unicorn founders, there are many operators at very cool places. My lead VC, there's a founder or there's an operator there that went to Vandy. Vandy has the people. I'm so glad we have people like Ben, just making sure we all know each other and that resources are available. But I think that my number one advice to founders at Vandy is you are at such a great institution with such valuable alumni networks. I think that people are willing to speak to you. People are willing to help you. I think the Vanderbilt ecosystem is phenomenal. And right now in this initial stage, until Ben is like 5 months from now, it'll probably be a way better experience. You're going to have to chart your own path. But that's also part of being a founder is you just kind of have to figure things out. But you're already at such a leg up being at a place like Vandy where people have done it before. People are willing to help you. And I found like at Vanderbilt, you have to find the right resources, but they're there. It's just like making the best use of them. I think Vandy has like a branding problem because there are already such great, like, talented people, but it doesn't get like the labels that some of the other places do. I think you should. I'm gonna say it. I think you should start a fund. Like I want you to like start a Vandy specific fund.
That is in the talks, I think.
Do it.
I wish I knew you earlier, honestly. But again, I think it's better that we're starting now versus like, a few months or years from now, which to me is like, I'm trying to build this and really make sure that connections are intentional. But like, if there were no connections made from day one, anything that we're doing is still a value add. So I'm excited to sort of see how we can also support the student founders or future builders, because some people might not even know they're founders, like, yourself.
Yeah, I was not interested in starting a company when I was at Vandy at all. It was like a later thing, but I do like the Vanderbilt ecosystem has been very helpful since I have like been on this endeavor. So I'm so grateful for that.
As sort of like a closing question, as a founder of Soxton, 3 years from now, where do you want Soxton to be?
Oh my gosh. I want Soxton to be like leading the charge in what it means to consume legal services in this country. Like I fundamentally believe, and I think that every cell of my being believes this, that we are like in the yellow book pages. Like that's like current law firm. There's so much money being poured into legal tech. There is so much technology that is being developed that can displace the way that legal services are being provided, that in 5, 10, 15 years, the way that lawyers practice is going to be different from both a technology perspective, but also a business perspective. I think that it's not going to look anything like it does today, and it's going to happen faster than we think. And I want Soxton to be at the very front lines of that, leading innovation. I'm so excited for it. I think it's going to allow more people to consume legal services. I think it's going to allow more people to have access to the judiciary, and it's overall going to lead to better outcomes for all of society. So thrilled about that.
Well, thank you so much, Logan, for joining us.
Thank you.
You can find Logan and Soxton on Soxton, SOXTON.ai. And I'm sure she will respond to your email.
Yes, I love Vanderbilt people. Please reach out.
Go Vandy.
Anchor down.